Okay, let me welcome all comrades, cadres, friends, and compatriots to this platform, the Facebook platform of Kangela Banks Baloy. Today we're going to talk to the topic, building a thriving and sustainable economy favorable to the needs of the workers and the marginalized. And we need to ask ourselves a question, what is to be done? Before we get into the topic of the day, allow me to pay respect to all our fellow citizens who succumbed to COVID-19. We need to also remind each other to comply to the regulations as set up in the government gazette. We need to always keep the physical or social distance, wash or sanitize our hands, avoid unnecessary traveling, and put the masks on when we're in public space. We also want to send our condolences to the family and friends of our stalwart, Dennis Goldberg. Can we at this moment observe a moment of silence for all those that have left us during this COVID-19 pandemic? I thank you. Comrades, I think we must start by breaking down the topic. We are doing this to make sure that we all are in the same wavelength of understanding of the topic. We will break this topic into 5 components. The first component, maybe before I go to the components, I need to read the topic again so that we all understand what the topic is. The topic is building a thriving and sustainable economy favorable to the needs of the workers and the marginalized. And what is to be done is a question of the day. So the 5 components are as follows. We need to define the word economy so that we can all know what an economy is. And the second component will be for us to understand what we mean by building a thriving economy. What is a thriving economy? And then the third component will be, what is it that we mean when we say a sustainable economy? Building a sustainable economy. And the fourth component will be for us to deal with the understanding of what is a favorable economy to the needs of the workers and the marginalized. And the last one will be a question, what is to be done? At this moment, we can go to the first component of the economy. What is the economy? The word economy means the state of a country in terms of production, consumption of goods, production and consumption of goods and services, and the supply of money. Let me repeat that. The word economy means the state of a country in terms of the production and the consumption of goods and services, and the supply of money. The state resources must always be carefully managed. When we say we economize, we mean that one is carefully managing the available resources. Therefore, careful management of state resources is very important. The question that we must always ask ourselves as Marxists is that, on whose class interest are we carefully managing the resources or the available resources in our country? In a capitalist situation, the economy is always managed to benefit the capitalist. This statement looks and sounds like a very obvious statement. It is not obvious. It is not an obvious statement because the capitalists always want us to believe that what they are doing is to benefit society as a whole. But that's not true because the primary aim of capitalism is to maximize profit by exploiting workers. They make more money from the blood and sweat of the workers by the process called super exploitation of workers. The society that we are endeavoring to build is where the production of goods and services benefits society as a whole. The more consumption we have, the more the need to produce, and the more jobs we're going to create. We want to build an economy where all members of society are engaged in economic activities. Unfortunately, capitalism strives in an economy where there is mass unemployment. Unfortunately, that's the current situation in our country. The second component of our topic is what do we mean when we say a thriving economy. A thriving economy is the economy which is sufficiently growing. The economic growth is catalyzed by sustainable energy supply. In South Africa today, it is an open secret that we have problems with electricity or electricity supply. We need to fix this problem in order to build a thriving economy. The other problem is that capitalist economy can grow but fails to satisfy the needs of society. It can grow without creating jobs. A good example is during the South African economy was growing very well during Thabo Mbeki's time or Thabo Mbeki's administration, but it failed to create jobs. The owners of the means of production then were pocketing huge profit in the expense of the working class and the marginalized. This is what the SACP, the South African Communist Party, correctly characterized as the 1996 class project. This was because of the GEAR policy, the Growth, Employment and Redistribution Policy. The GEAR policy replaced the RDP of Mandela, the Redistribution and Growth Program. GEAR was a policy direction which was imposed to us by the imperialists, while RDP was a locally developed program. The third component of our topic is what is a sustainable economy? What do we mean when we say the economy is sustainable? The existence of the economy is to support society and enhance the well-being of its citizens. It is a system where limited resources in society are managed fairly and sustainably. Those resources we're talking about is land, labor, and capital. The economy and the economic ideological thinking should not drive society, but rather support society in its aims. The aims and the objectives of society must always take precedence. Profit maximization must always be secondary to poverty alleviation. What do we mean? What do we mean by that is poverty alleviation programs should take priority over profit maximization. The economy is sustainable when it can support all its citizens without compromising the environment and the future generation. The sustainable economy must be able to optimize the resources to support all in society. At this point, we can go to the fourth component, which is what is a favorable economy to the needs of the workers and the marginalized. When we talk of workers and the marginalized, we are referring to the working class. We have two classes in society, the class of the capitalist and the class of the working class and the poor. The working class is a class that is vulnerable and exploited by capitalists. The favorable economy to the needs of the workers and the marginalized must be able to dress the naked. It must be able to feed the hungry. It must be able to give shelter to the homeless. It must be able to supply water to all citizens. It must be able to electrify all communities. It must be able to provide health services to all citizens. It must be able to give justice to all, and it must provide the environment of equal treatment to all citizens, without regard to race, religion, gender, sex, culture, tradition, etc. It must comply to all 30 articles of the Universal Human Rights Declaration. It must also comply to Chapter 2 of the Constitution of our country, the Bill of Rights. The economy, which is favorable to the needs of the workers and the marginalized, must be able to address the aspirations as outlined in the Freedom Charter. Those aspirations are as follows. The people shall govern. All national groups shall have equal rights. The people shall share in the country's wealth. The land shall be shared amongst those who work it. All shall be equal before the law. All shall enjoy equal human rights. There shall be work and security. And doors of learning and culture shall be opened. There shall be houses, security and comfort. And there shall be peace and friendship. The National Union of Mine Workers was the first trade union to adopt the Freedom Charter. Hence, we decided to outline what is contained in it. The favorable economy to the needs of the workers and the marginalized will contain all elements of the Freedom Charter. Now that we are all in the same understanding of the topic of the day, we need to ask ourselves a question: what is to be done in the building of a thriving and sustainable economy favorable to the needs of the workers and the marginalized? As a trade union, we are not in the place to fight and destroy capitalism. We are in a funny relationship of what Karl Marx calls the unity of opposites. This is one of the 3 laws of dialectics. We are concentrating on this law because it is the one that is relevant to our topic. Capitalists exploit workers for maximum profit, while workers benefit by receiving wages or salary from capitalists. That's the unity of the opposite. It's antagonistic. This makes it impossible for workers to destroy capitalism by themselves. We are not saying it makes it impossible for the workers to destroy capitalism, no, but we are saying by themselves. Workers need a vanguard party. The vanguard party must politically conscientize the trade unions. The vanguard party must develop a political program. In our situation, the vanguard party is the SACP, the South African Communist Party. The SACP has already developed a program which is titled the South African Road to Socialism, SARS. This document outlines the revolutionary program of the country. We encourage all our leaders in the NUM and in the MDM structures to familiarize themselves with this document. The document deals, amongst other issues, with the following. On Chapter 2, it deals with socialism. Why socialism? Chapter 3, it deals with colonization of a special type. This is a very important chapter because it explains why the colonization in our country is different from the colonization in other countries. Because the colonization in our country had apartheid in it. The 4th chapter of the SARS document is the NDR and the SARS, the National Democratic Revolution and the South African Road to Socialism. This chapter is the core of the document. The 5th chapter is the SSCP and the state power. In the past congresses of the SSCP, a resolution has been taken that the SSCP will contest state power. We are just waiting for nitty-gritties from the leadership so that we can contest state power. The other chapters, the one that is more important is the one that deals with Chapter 9, that deals with the battle of ideas. It is very important. Today, while we are giving this lecture, we are actually contributing in the battle of ideas. We are not saying our ideas are correct. We are putting our ideas there for the ideas to be critiqued by other readers. The South African Road to Socialism as a document has all answers to the question, what is to be done? It teaches us about the National Democratic Revolution as a shortest route to socialism. It outlines the path for the South African Revolution. We need to first attain national democracy before socialism. Our national democracy is under capitalism. We need to, however, make sure that the aspiration of the Freedom Charter are attained during this era of a democratic society under capitalism. Our people must have food, free education, proper houses. There must be peace and security and other elements of the Freedom Charter. The economy must thrive, but it must be sustainable while favoring the needs of the workers and the marginalized. Thereafter, we can move to socialism. In his book, or in his work, Lenin said, or he argues, that while capitalism predisposes the workers to the acceptance of socialism, it does not automatically or spontaneously make them conscious socialists. The proletariat on its own can achieve only trade union consciousness. Because we've got three levels of consciousness. We've got trade union consciousness, we've got political consciousness, and we've got class consciousness. But today, we're not going to get into that topic. Maybe in our next topic, we'll talk to that. The proletariat cannot achieve class consciousness by itself. We need a vanguard party to politically conscientize the industrial proletariat. We advise all worker leaders to read Lenin's work, especially the book or the document, What is to be Done. Lenin defines a vanguard party and its role in society in details in this book. A vanguard party is a revolutionary party comprised of few carefully selected thinkers. It is not a mass-based movement. The question we must ask ourselves is whether the South African Communist Party is playing the role of a vanguard party in our country today. We need to honestly answer this question. As much as we want to build a thriving and sustainable economy favorable to the needs of the workers and the marginalized, we need not to lose sight that we are socialists. We need to ultimately achieve socialism in this country in our lifetime. But the question, what is to be done, still stands. Let me try to attempt to answer that question. In South Africa, we must build an economy which is going to sufficiently cater for the needs of the workers and the marginalized. We need an economy which creates quality and sustainable jobs. We need an economy which closes the inequality gap. We need to resolve the land question. Land redistribution will assist in closing the gap, in creating sustainable jobs, and in food security. We are aware that the constitution of the country is being reviewed, Section 25, on property, to deal with this issue of land question. That will assist in building a sustainable and thriving economy favorable to the needs of the workers and the marginalized. Our economy was already collapsing before COVID-19. because of the slow growth that we experienced, which resulted in the country having the unemployment rate of 29%. That was before COVID-19. COVID-19 pandemic found us already limping, and it looks like it is going to completely collapse our economy. Once the pandemic is under control, we must rebuild the economy by doing the following. We are trying to answer the question, what is to be done? We must dress the nation with locally made clothing. In doing this or doing so, we will be creating much needed jobs in our country, thereby contributing to the economy. Because that's production. When you produce and consume, that's economy. Secondly, we must feed the nation with locally produced and processed food. That will create jobs too. The biggest mistake humanity committed was to commodify the production and processing of food. It boils back to the question of land ownership. Consumption or consuming goods from other countries means we are contributing to the economic growth of those countries. 3, we need free decolonized education. Our education still consists of a lot of colonial factors. Most of us study to get employed and not to create employment. The decolonized education system must encourage our people to create jobs. It is amazing to find lawyers, doctors, engineers, and other professionals to be unemployed. We need our professionals to be entrepreneurs, thereby assist the country in creating jobs. 4, infrastructure development must be completely localized. We need to use local manufactured stainless steel, cement, and other materials that are used during construction. All those materials must be locally produced. We need to use steel manufactured from our country. When we use steel manufactured from other countries, we are contributing in the economy, in building the economy of those countries and neglecting our own economy. We are contributing in creating jobs for those countries while neglecting our own people. The mining sector must stop exporting raw materials. That's a bad move. We need to start beneficiating. We need to start processing our mineral resources here in this country. That will automatically grow our economy and create jobs in our country. The health sector has a potential to create a lot of jobs. This sector is a sector which has a huge market because people get sick every day. People get sick all the time. Everyone will get sick at some time. Sometimes in my life I'll get sick. Everyone gets sick. So the market is always there. The problem here is the health system in the country is highly privatized. So we are saying the provision of the universal health care will create a lot of jobs in this country. Then we need to implement or accelerate the implementation of the NHI, the National Health Insurance. We believe that will create a lot of jobs, thereby assisting the marginalized, the workers, and the poor. We must stop the privatization of the energy sector. IPPs are milking Eskom. Actually, they are milking it to death. Because as we stand now, Eskom, the demand is low, but they still have to pay the IPPs for the electricity they are producing. But we are not using that electricity. Eskom is employing just above 48,000 employees, while IPPs are employing very few workers. Actually, their control rooms are in foreign countries. So the operators, the people that operate, the IPPs are foreigners. Electricity is a lifeblood of the economy. It shouldn't be left in private hands. We can't leave this in private hands. It's actually very bad to do that. We can even destroy the sovereignty of our country. We must refuse to let SAA die. I know it's on its deathbed now. It's almost dying. But we must refuse to let it die. SAA brings the much needed economic activities by taking the world to Africa and taking Africa to the world, as their slogan says. All proud nations have a national airline, including Zimbabwe. We will be a laughingstock. The next one is that in order to build a thriving and sustainable economy favorable to the needs of the workers and the marginalized, we need to move away from complete privatization of the economy and have a government which is hands-on. We need what I term state capitalism. I know some will want to debate with me what is state capitalism. We also have to eliminate all form of corruption, because this is a problem. Corruption is the biggest problem in this country and the world. At this point, I want to quote Chris Hani. Open quote. Socialism is not about big concepts and heavy theory. Socialism is about decent shelter for those who are homeless. It is about water for those who have no safe drinking water. It is about healthcare. It is about a life of dignity for the old. It is about overcoming the huge divide between urban and rural areas. It is about a decent education for all our people. Socialism is about rolling back the tyranny of the market. As long as the economy is dominated by an unelected, privileged few, the case for socialism will exist. Close quote. When Chris Hani said, as long as the economy is dominated by unelected, privileged few, the case for socialism will exist, he was talking to the current situation in this country. The majority of black people vote for a government, but in turn, a few known white families controls the economy. This situation is unsustainable, as it only benefits selected few in the country. When there was an allegation of state capture by the Gupta family, we all stood up against it. And that was a good thing to do. We seem to find ourselves in a similar situation today, but with different capturers. That has an impact to the topic of today, because it is a perpetuation of undermining the workers and the marginalized. Maybe Mukwege was correct to say, maybe we are captured in advance. We urge the nation, the world, to comply to the regulations as prescribed by the authorities to cap the spread of the coronavirus. As they say, the virus does not move, people makes it move. We must all obey the rules so that we can save the nation and continue to build a thriving and sustainable economy favorable to the needs of the workers and the marginalized. I thank you. A luta continua.